thank you so much for joining today's special topic webinar, Alcohol and Your Liver, presented by the American Liver Foundation. My name is Carla. I am the Director of Education and Partnerships at NeedyMeds. And before we kick off today's presentation, I just want to get started with a few tips. If you have questions throughout today's presentation, you can type them in anytime into that questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Just know we will reserve answering questions until the end. And if we don't have the chance to answer your specific question, we will follow up with you personally via email. And of course, the contact information for NeedyMeds and the American Liver Foundation will be provided. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel. And there are copies of the PowerPoint presentations in that webinar. There are copies of the PowerPoint presentations available in that handout section of your control panel. So with that, let's get started. For those of you that are not familiar with NeedyMeds, what you're looking at is our mission statement and how we achieve our mission. But simply put, NeedyMeds connects people to programs that will help them afford their healthcare expenses. And we do that free and anonymously through our website, needymeds.org, and our helpline, 1-800-503-6897. And I always put up a screenshot of our homepage because really our website is the face of our organization. And just a few things I wanted to point out here. If you are looking for healthcare cost savings resources, you would find those under the Patient Savings tab. I mentioned that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, and you can find a link to that on the top right hand of our homepage. It's the third icon from the left. And to check out what other webinars are coming up and to register, please always visit our calendar of events on the bottom right hand side of our homepage. So with that, let's move on to today's webinar, Alcohol and Your Liver, presented by Donna Shaka from the American Liver Foundation. So first, let me tell you a bit about NeedyMeds' partner, the American Liver Foundation. Their mission is to facilitate, advocate, and promote education, support, and research for the prevention, treatment, and cure of liver disease. Now let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Donna has worked in nonprofit health education for over 20 years. She is a graduate of St. Joseph College in West Hartford with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's been with the American Liver Foundation's Connecticut division since November 2011. And in her time with the ALF, she has developed relationships with numerous substance abuse recovery center clinicians, as well as high school and college teachers. These relationships have led to ongoing community education presentations about the liver and the importance of being proactive in maintaining liver wellness. In fact, each year, Donna presents to over 5,000 Connecticut residents through the American Liver Foundation's community education programs. So as you can see, with her background and expertise, we are thrilled to have Donna as a guest and sharing what she knows with the NeedyMeds audience. So bear with me while I go ahead and transfer the mic and the screen to Donna. And we're going to try and do that seamlessly. It may take just a moment, so bear with us while we do that. And it looks like Donna has already grabbed that screen. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that to her. And before I do that, two quick things. I do want to remind you guys that if you have questions, you can go ahead and type them again into that question section of your GoToWebinar control panel. And I do see some people having a little bit of difficulty downloading that PowerPoint from that handout section. Don't worry, I will email it to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and the screen to Donna. Enjoy the presentation.
Thanks, Carla. Hi, everybody. I'm really honored to have this opportunity to talk with you all today. Excuse me. So I will do my best to share this information in an understandable fashion. I do want to preface this just briefly by saying that I am not a medical professional. I am a trained community health and outreach education manager for the American Liver Foundation. So any questions anybody may have later on, please bear in mind that I cannot give personalized medical information. That is not my background. So this is for general purposes only, and we always encourage people to speak with their own physicians or nurse practitioners or whoever you go to for your health care. So having said that, we'll go on to the next slide if I can get the thing to move here. Just bear with me. My slides are not moving. This is not good.
So that's okay. Sometimes this happens. On the bottom, if you can move that dock out of your way, on the bottom left-hand side of your PowerPoint, you should find some arrows. Maybe drag it up a little bit. And while Donna's figuring that out, again, there we go. And then the reminder to everybody that you can type in any questions you have into that questions section. And any technical difficulties with our audience, please do let me know. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Carla. So the first thing we have to really talk about is the drinking culture in America. And we have to really remember that alcohol consumption is a common thing in many cultures. So the United States is not unique in having a culture of alcohol consumption. Um, Alcohol really has played a central role in almost all human cultures. There are countless reasons why people choose to drink alcohol. It may be to fit in socially. It may be to deal with uncomfortable situations. It could be stress. You know, we've all heard of people who drink to have after they've had a bad day at work. It could be sheer curiosity. I do a lot of outreach with young people, and there's a lot of curiosity about, gee, what does it feel like to be drunk? What does alcohol taste like? So that could be part of it. We find this on college campuses. We find it socially, business cultures. It is a very commonly used drug among adults in the United States. Alcohol really is a commonly used drug. When I look at this picture or these pictures, we have this notion. We associate alcohol with celebrations or holidays, or that picture there on the upper right of the funnels and the sports events and college campus drinking. So in photos, alcohol consumption really can be and often is depicted as a fun or celebratory thing. But what's not captured is the possible physical damage that can occur from drinking excessive alcohol amounts. And when we think about this, we have to really get a grip on how pervasive this is in our culture. I mean, people get married. What's the first thing we do? We raise a glass to toast the bride and groom. St. Patrick's Day, New Year's Eve. So it's just ingrained in our culture everywhere. It's hard to avoid it, and it's hard to tell people to never drink alcohol because it's almost impossible to escape it. But the substance of alcohol is what we really need to talk about. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, which means it is really something that physically and psychologically slows body activities. Alcohol affects every organ in the body. The liver can metabolize or process a small amount of alcohol at one time, so the excess ends up circulating throughout the body. Now, some people mistakenly believe that wine and beer are not as potentially dangerous as hard liquor. So your hard liquors are your bourbons, your gins, your whiskeys, your tequilas, vodka, things like that. But the reality is any alcoholic beverage can be damaging to the liver if it's consumed in large enough quantity or with enough frequency. Now, the difference that we have to distinguish here, and I think sometimes there is confusion about this, what is alcohol abuse versus alcohol dependence, because they are not necessarily the same thing. There are people who drink alcohol very moderately, while others drink more often. Everyone who drinks excessively does not have an alcohol use disorder or addiction. That's a very important distinction to make. Alcohol abuse does not necessarily mean that someone is alcohol dependent. As a clinician at a substance abuse recovery center once stated to me, alcohol abuse is drinking too much too often, and alcohol dependence is the inability to quit. So there's your clear distinction between these two things. Someone who abuses alcohol is not yet physically addicted or dependent on getting the alcohol into his or her body. However, the pattern of drinking may get in the way of daily life. Perhaps the drinking is causing difficulty with getting to work on time, being productive while at work because of a hangover, missing important appointments, things like that. For younger people who abuse alcohol, they may start missing classes at school, not getting assignments done, and also suffering from low or failing grades. People who abuse alcohol may have personality changes such as mood swings, feeling cranky, or lashing out at people. If confronted about their drinking, they may try to make excuses about what they are doing. They may not deal well with anyone questioning why they are drinking, commenting on how much or how often they are drinking. Relationships may suffer, and in some cases, there may be legal problems as a result of drinking. For instance, drunk driving charges or other problems. The addiction, now that's the thing we also have to address here. A lot of our information comes from the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. Some people use alcohol and then it can segue from abuse into addiction. When someone becomes addicted to alcohol, he or she loses control about how much alcohol is consumed. Instead of the person being in control of the alcohol consumption, the addiction now controls the alcohol consumption. A person without addiction might consider a spouse or child the focal point of life. A person with addiction begins to see alcohol as the focal point of life. That person may begin to think mainly about when he or she can get the next drink, might lose interest in other activities that used to bring them joy. People with alcohol addiction can suffer terrible withdrawal symptoms if they do not get the alcohol into their system when their body is accustomed to having it. Alcohol withdrawal can be mild to severe, and it may include anxiety, agitation, increased heart rate, changes in blood pressure, shaking, and sweating. Because these withdrawal symptoms can be so difficult, people may choose to enter a detox program or other substance abuse recovery center so that they can receive medical oversight to get them through that experience. People with alcohol addiction may try to explain why they are drinking so much. This is rationalizing or justifying their drinking. They may also try to reduce the importance of the excess alcohol consumption, even though their addiction is destroying them physically and emotionally. As with alcohol abuse, addiction often causes people to stop pursuing activities that they used to enjoy. The addiction keeps them entrenched in drinking, even though they may lose their jobs, leave school, and experience divorce or separation from a spouse. So while abuse and addiction can both be very difficult situations, the addiction is where people really do get stuck. They get stuck into this pattern. Now, the binge drinking issue. Again, some people may drink moderately, sporadically, but in small amounts. Binge drinking, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, it's a general definition of binge drinking. It's indicating that 5 or more drinks within 2 hours is binge drinking for men, and 4 or more drinks in 2 hours is binge drinking for women. This benchmark of binge drinking is that the amount of alcohol consumed in a 2-hour time frame brings the blood alcohol concentration in the body to 0.08 or higher. Again, it does not matter if the alcohol being consumed is beer, wine, hard liquor, or any combination. All of them contain alcohol, and all can contribute to blood alcohol concentration levels. And I will share just a brief story of a gentleman I met who was in a substance abuse recovery program, and he was absolutely astounded to find out that he had liver disease, cirrhosis of the liver, because he only drank beer. And in his mind, all those years that he was drinking so much beer, he just didn't think beer was as dangerous as hard liquor. And he found out, unfortunately, that that was a myth. So I want to be very clear on that. All of these things contain alcohol. So again, noting with different types of beer, wine, or malt liquor, the alcohol contents can vary greatly. So these are very general standards that we go by. Standard drink is equal to 14.0 grams or 0.6 ounces of pure alcohol. So then that generally would be found in 1 ounce of hard liquor or spirits, possibly 1.5 ounces depending on proof. 4 ounces of wine, possibly 5 ounces. I've seen it written as both, and also 12 ounces of beer. So when we talk about content, a 12-ounce regular beer is usually about 5% alcohol. 4 to 5 ounces of wine is typically containing about 12% alcohol, and a standard shot of hard liquor, 1 to 1.5 ounces, is about 40% alcohol, but all of them do contain alcohol. And I know I'm drumming that point home because it's something that people really seem to not think about. Now, before I get to toxic effects of alcohol on the body, I want to just mention fetal alcohol syndrome and the effects of alcohol in pregnant women. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a condition in a child that results from alcohol exposure during mother's pregnancy. Fetal alcohol syndrome causes brain damage and growth problems. According to the Mayo Clinic, the problems caused by fetal alcohol syndrome can vary from child to child, but the defects caused by this syndrome are not reversible. So pregnant people consequently really should avoid alcohol if at all possible. It's also important to note that taking any medications while drinking can be dangerous, and they may actually increase the risk of complications such as liver damage, heart problems, and internal bleeding. In some cases, alcohol interactions may decrease the effectiveness of medications, and in others, it may render them completely useless. In some other cases, alcohol interactions may make drugs harmful or even toxic to the body. So it's important to observe warning labels and ask your doctor or pharmacist if it's safe to use alcohol with any medications that you may be taking. And that would also include herbal remedies. Bear in mind that anything we put into our body, our livers have to filter. So that would include herbal remedies and supplements. Now, in terms of overall effects on the body's organs, I like to think of our bodies as machines. And as with any machine that's out there, if there's a problem with a major part of that machine, it is very likely that the machine is not going to run well. So when we think about how alcohol, which is a toxin to our bodies, it's not surprising that it can lead to various problems beyond liver disease. People who drink a lot of alcohol may experience a condition known as pancreatitis. And think about the word. It ends in itis. Anytime a medical term ends in itis, think of gingivitis, bronchitis, arthritis. Something is usually inflamed. So pancreatitis is an inflammation of the pancreas. And I've spoken with people who've had this, and it's an extremely painful condition to have. The alcohol can also affect the lining of the bladder and kidneys, which can become inflamed. Alcohol can actually interfere with brain function as well. When people drink alcohol, the digestive system can become less effective, and therefore alcohol can cause the blockage of absorption of certain vitamins and minerals. The heart, also known as cardiac, there can be cardiac problems can occur as a result of excess alcohol, as the heart muscles can actually become weakened. And finally, alcohol can affect white blood cells, and these are needed to fight off illness. Therefore, it's associated with our immune system. So you can see it's not just a liver-affecting toxin. It affects everything. This is a slide that we really incorporate into all of our community education programs because people really don't think much about the liver until something goes wrong with it. It's sort of the unsung hero of the human body. People are well aware of the heart and how you hear about people having heart attacks, or we hear about breast cancer, prostate disease, but we don't really hear that much about the liver. And in reality, this organ is a pretty miraculous thing. It's an organ that performs about 500 functions, which is a lot of work. We have some body parts that aren't really necessary for life. You can live without a gallbladder, you can live without an appendix, but you cannot live without a liver. It is a vital organ. The liver is the largest organ inside the body. It's located under the ribs on the right side, and it weighs about 3 pounds. So if you don't have a grasp of what the heft of that is, go and pick up a 3-pound bag of onions at the grocery store. That'll tell you how heavy your liver is. And it's pretty much shaped like a football. It's flat on one side. It is reddish brown in color. Some people think livers are bright pink, and they're not. They're reddish brown. And some of the highlights of the functions of the liver include energy storage, assisting with muscle building. It's a lot of protein and enzyme production in the liver, so it's really important. It produces bile, which we need to digest food that we consume. It produces proteins that assist with clotting of blood. So, for example, somebody with really advanced liver disease is going to have some bleeding issues. That's just the fact of the matter, unfortunately. The liver helps the immune system, helps strengthen the immune system, and it filters and removes toxins from the body. And these can include alcohol, medications, and pollutants, because everything we eat, drink, breathe, and absorb through our skin actually is processed by the liver. A really unique trait that the liver possesses is that it can regenerate as long as it's not too severely damaged. And it is the only body in the organ in the body that can do this. It's a pretty unique function. Our skin can regenerate, but in terms of internal organs, the liver is the one that can do that. So alcohol in the liver. Well, the liver breaks down alcohol so it can be removed from the body. Alcohol contains toxic chemicals that in high concentration can trigger inflammation and injure liver cells. And in addition, if you drink more alcohol than the liver can process in a given amount of time, the resulting imbalance can injure the liver by interfering with the normal breakdown of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. In general, because people are all shapes and sizes, the liver can process one small drink per hour. However, and this is where people they want to have that shortcut. They say, well, as long as I time my drinking, then as long as I drink one every hour, I'm okay. If excess is consumed, the liver actually loses the ability to process it, and that excess still remains in the blood and body tissues, which has its own set of issues which can include alcohol poisoning. So it's not like you can set a stopwatch and every hour just keep drinking and drinking, because things may not process properly at that rate. So the three conditions you see on this slide can all occur as a result of drinking more alcohol than the body can process, and they are alcohol-related hepatitis, fatty liver disease, and alcohol-related cirrhosis. Fatty liver can result from drinking too much alcohol. It can also have other causes, but there is something called alcohol-related fatty liver. The name clearly states the condition. Excess fat begins to develop in the liver, and it may or may not be accompanied by inflammation. If the fat is associated with inflammation, it can then lead to early scarring of the liver, also known as fibrosis. Fatty liver is often the earliest stage of liver damage as a result of excess drinking, and it's actually the most common alcohol-related liver disease. People often don't even know that they have fatty liver. They might feel a little discomfort in the upper abdomen area, but often they don't tend to feel ill. So when people think of having a liver disease or a liver problem, we don't want to give the impression that people are always aware of it. It can kind of sneak up on people, and that's why it's really important to assess risk versus how you feel, because fatty liver in particular may have absolutely no symptoms. Now, the good news is that if someone with fatty liver associated with excess alcohol consumption stops drinking, the fat generally can go away and the liver can regenerate and return to normal. And that's an optimal situation that we would like to see people have. Now, the word hepatitis, there's that itis again, means inflammation. Hepa means liver in Latin. Itis means inflammation. So the word hepatitis means inflammation of the liver. Alcohol-related hepatitis means that the liver has actually become inflamed or swollen from the amount of alcohol being consumed. Someone with alcohol-related hepatitis may start feeling queasy. They may have abdominal pain, possibly lose their appetite. The skin or the whites of the eyes may turn yellow. This is a condition known as jaundice. And jaundice is caused by a buildup of bilirubin or waste material in the blood. Some people seem to have a genetic leaning toward developing alcohol-related hepatitis. Some people's bodies process alcohol differently. Malnutrition may play a role, and certainly anyone with any other liver disease who also drinks alcohol is likely to have additional liver damage from alcohol. Alcohol is sort of like putting gasoline on a fire when another liver disorder is present. It tends to speed up the damage and make things worse a lot faster. There is the possibility of recovering from alcohol-related hepatitis, but again, that would involve stopping the drinking of alcohol. You've got that one source of a problem there, and as long as that source is there, the problem is likely going to continue. When we talk about alcohol-related cirrhosis of the liver, this means that the healthy tissue has actually been replaced by hardened scar tissue. Cirrhosis is late-stage liver disease and can have numerous causes, including excess alcohol consumption. Cirrhosis will prevent the liver from doing the jobs it has to do in order to keep people healthy. So if someone has been drinking a lot of alcohol but then stops drinking, the liver can regenerate if cirrhosis is in the early stages. But if that drinking continues, the liver may become even more damaged and can lead to something called decompensated cirrhosis, where death can occur. Someone with cirrhosis may be a candidate for liver transplantation, but that would really have to be determined after an extensive consultation with a doctor. The next slide is going to show what the progression of liver disease looks like from the healthiest to the sickest. So if that's going to make anybody uncomfortable and you don't want to see medical pictures, just close your eyes for this particular slide. Now, bear in mind that liver disease, like many others, is a progression. This is not an overnight situation. It's generally something that takes several years to go from having a healthy liver to one that has cirrhosis. Also, keep in mind that there are over 100 liver diseases, so it is not only drinking too much alcohol that can lead to cirrhosis. On the upper left, that's what a smooth, healthy liver should look like. There's no scarring, there's no destruction of tissue, the edges are nice and clear and clean. Everything looks really pristine. That's what we hope everybody's liver will look like. The center picture at the bottom is starting to show some moderate scarring or fibrosis. This liver is damaged, but not yet so severely that regeneration is impossible for some people. And you can actually see in this case that it is sort of starting to turn a yellowish color, which is showing a little bit of fatty liver going on as well. Now, on the upper right, the big problem that's going to occur here is if the liver disease goes undetected or untreated and the liver becomes more and more scarred. So this photo on the upper right shows severe scarring or cirrhosis of the liver. And this is the real danger zone for people because now liver function can be threatened. Cirrhosis can also be a lead-in to liver cancer, liver failure, and in extreme cases, even death. So remember, even though you cannot live without a functioning liver, some people may not even know that their livers are damaged without a thorough physical examination. I want to really drive that point home. We have got to go by risk factor, not just how people feel, because how we feel can be deceiving. So I know when I started with this job, I started thinking, well, gee, am I at risk because I drink small amounts of alcohol, or if I know friends who drink a little bit more, who's at risk here? And the frustrating thing about figuring out who will have a physical consequence from drinking too much alcohol is that there are so many variables that are at play here. Now, again, I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but what we do know is that all of the factors on this slide can play a role in how alcohol can affect people. So this is not an easy thing to assess, and I don't think anybody should really try to assess their own potential for having liver damage without speaking to a doctor about this, because it's very difficult to do it without getting the appropriate tests. I think probably all of us know people who maybe drink a lot or do other things, and we would suspect that they would have some sort of negative effects, and yet they seem fine. And then we see others who progress faster to disease than others. I know I met a young man at a substance abuse recovery center who, at the time I met him, was 31 years old and had been diagnosed with cirrhosis. And he told me he began drinking heavily at 17 years old. So in his case, took about a little under 15 years to get to that point. But then I met another gentleman who was much older and had been drinking heavily for many, many years, and his doctor said that he had some liver damage, but it wasn't in cirrhosis yet. So why this young man progressed so fast and the older man didn't, we have to look at these factors on this slide. So, there could be a racial or ethnicity issue. There could be a general physical condition issue. Is the person getting any nutrition in their body? Sometimes alcohol becomes the only thing people put into their body. They don't even eat. Are they using other drugs while they're drinking? Do they have another liver disease at play or any other disease going on that's making things worse for them? We just really don't know. So the assessment is important. So we each have to look at ourselves and say, well, gee, am I at risk for this? Could I be in this group of people who has liver disease? And the best way to determine this is to honestly examine your own pattern of alcohol consumption. Now, perhaps before participating in this webinar, you didn't know what one drink meant or what binge drinking means. Now that you know, try to assess how much you've been drinking and how often you drink. It's wise to get an annual physical, and when you do, it's important to be honest with the doctor or medical professional you meet about what you're doing in terms of alcohol consumption. I know when I go for my physicals, I get handed a questionnaire, and on the questionnaire, it generally says, do you drink alcohol, and if so, how many drinks per week? You have to really try to report this honestly. It's important to get the appropriate medical testing to determine if any health issues are present so that they can be addressed before they lead to serious complications. And generally, that all starts with blood work. That often is the first step in any medical testing. If you or someone you know has a pattern of drinking in which the alcohol is in control, then that is likely addiction. And there is help available for people with alcohol and other substance addictions. So anyone who feels that help is needed to safely regain their health should seek it and not suffer in silence. There's help out there. It's just asking for it that we want people to do if they need it. Other risks out of concern here with drinking can include the following things on this slide. Additional risks of excess drinking can lead to auto accidents. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 29 people in the United States die each day in motor vehicle crashes that involve an alcohol-impaired driver. I myself was in a car accident last summer, hit by someone who was impaired by alcohol. There are 1 in 10 deaths among working-age adults due to excessive alcohol use in this country. People who drink excessively may engage in risky sexual behaviors that they would not ordinarily do when sober. Some folks can become violent when intoxicated. Violent behavior and alcohol can go hand in hand for some people. And sadly, other risks of excess drinking can include suicide and homicide. Alcohol changes the way people think and in many cases behave. Therefore, in addition to the potential physical consequences of alcohol, there are psychological and emotional consequences as well. This slide here just gives you a little bit of information about where you can find help through the American Liver Foundation on our website, our national helpline. We have online support communities, and also addiction recovery resources that you'll see on the right-hand side of the slide. If you want to do additional research, what I really tell folks is to make sure you're using reputable websites. You want to steer toward the Department of Health or Centers for Disease Control, National Institutes of Health, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Stick with well-known sources, medically based sources, because there are people who post things that don't have a grain of truth in them. If you stick with things that are reputable like this, you're likely to get very good information. And in terms of any local resources that you have, in terms of the alcohol addiction, certainly Alcoholics Anonymous is there for people with alcohol addiction. There's also Al-Anon for adults who have loved ones with alcohol addiction and just need some help coping with that disease. And Alateen is actually a subgroup of Al-Anon, and that's for younger people who have loved ones with alcohol addiction. And that's a good resource that can be accessed through the Al-Anon website as well. And I believe that's the last of my slides.
Fantastic. Thank you, Donna, so much for taking time to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds audience. And with this presentation, for those of you that have not participated in any of our previously recorded or scheduled American Liver Foundation webinars, you can rewatch those. Those are posted on our YouTube channel. And again, you can find that on the top right hand of our homepage. It's the third social media icon from the left. And be sure to check out our upcoming calendar events for future American Liver Foundation webinars. And if this is your first time being introduced to the ALF or one of their presentations, Donna is a great example of why we are so proud to partner with them. Everybody that you speak with there is not only up to date and well informed, and also has a great ability of taking sometimes difficult and complicated topics and breaking it down so that we can understand it and implement it into our lives. But everybody that you'll encounter at the American Liver Foundation has just as much passion and enthusiasm about this topic that Donna has. And they really drive home the point that regardless of where you are in your life or in your health journey, the liver plays a crucial role in that. So being educated about maintaining your liver health is super important. I do see some questions coming in. So before I forward those along to Donna, I do want to put up just a screen about the NeedyMeds Healthcare Cost Savings Resources. I'm not going to review these now. I just want to show you some of the ways that NeedyMeds can help you save on your medications or other healthcare costs. And what you're looking at is a list of our most popular and effective cost savings programs. And to learn more, again, you can visit that patient savings tab on our website that I pointed out in the beginning of the presentation, or join us for one of our monthly NeedyMeds overview webinars. And speaking of webinars, since I have you as a captive audience, I will point out some of our other upcoming special topic webinars. And there's our next overview one that I just mentioned at the end of the month that I do hope you join us for. As I ask Donna the questions that are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and leave up that contact information for the American Liver Foundation at the top, and of course for NeedyMeds at the bottom as well. So let's get to some of those questions. And again, a reminder, if we don't have the chance to answer your question, because we do keep the segments section the question segment of our special topic webinars brief. Again, we will, of course, follow up with you personally via email, but we also encourage you to reach out directly to either the American Liver Foundation or NeedyMeds sooner. So, Donna, one of the first questions coming in, and this is a great question. What if I drink a lot but feel okay? Does that mean that my liver isn't damaged from the alcohol?
Well, again, that's such a personalized question. So, we are all not cookie cutter people. So that's the first thing to understand. And what one person may consider drinking a lot may be a different concept of what actually is being consumed. So if you are drinking, whether it's daily or you're having episodes of heavy drinking where you're exceeding, 2, 3, 4 drinks a day, that can be excessive. And the best way, even if you feel fine, don't tempt fate and play Russian roulette here. It's really important to make an appointment. I cannot stress enough the importance of an annual physical just to get those routine benchmark, baseline labs done. And just, again, find a doctor or a clinic or somewhere where you can speak honestly and be able to talk about what your personal habits are, what you're doing, how often you're doing it, and then get those tests. And those tests are going to be revealing any problems before hopefully they get to a critical stage. So definitely seek medical guidance on that for sure.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you to our audience member for that question. Another one coming in is, if I mix alcohol with juice or other mixer, does that make the alcohol less dangerous to my body?
Actually, it doesn't. It'll make your glass fuller, but it's not like juice or seltzer or soda or a mixer somehow makes the alcohol less potent. You simply have the same amount of alcohol, whatever the substance is. If it's vodka or hard liquor that's 40% alcohol, you've now got that mixed into something that's giving you a larger drink. But if you finish that drink, you're still consuming something that's got 40% alcohol in it, alcohol content. So that's going to put your blood alcohol content up, just as we said earlier in the presentation. So the long answer is what I just said. The short answer is no, that is not necessarily going to make it less harmful to you.
Great. Thank you for breaking that down. And I was curious about that myself. And this next question I am also curious about, and I'm eager to hear your response to it, Donna, which is, I know someone who mixes energy drinks with alcohol. Is that a problem?
I go to a lot of schools and colleges to do this program, and I did not know this was a thing, mixing energy drinks with alcohol, but apparently it's quite a thing these days. So here's the deal with that. You're drinking alcohol, which is a central nervous system depressant, and you're combining it with a caffeinated beverage. So maybe it's Monster or Red Bull, one of those things. So what's going to likely happen there is, because you're drinking caffeine in your beverage, the caffeine is going to sort of block the intoxicating effect that you feel from drinking the alcohol. So if you're drinking like this, it actually lends itself to binge drinking, because you're able to drink more without feeling as drunk. And I think what one kid at a college told me is that he does this so that he can stay awake and drink longer into the night. So that can really be dangerous, because now you're consuming even more alcohol than you would have been consuming had you not been adding caffeine to it. It just sort of jazzes you up so much that you're not feeling the effects of the alcohol, so you tend to drink more alcohol. So that is not recommended as a healthy way of consuming alcohol. That actually can pose some problems.
Wow, that actually makes so much sense now that you've explained it like that. And thank you to our audience member again for asking these great questions. And as I said in the beginning, when I talked about Donna's experience and expertise, one of the things she does in reaching out to schools and communities obviously benefits everybody you encounter, Donna, because the fact that you have these open conversations with high school and college kids, that you remain up to speed, up to date, what's current on what's going on out there with alcohol consumption, and you can share that with the population that the American Liver Foundation serves, is really invaluable. So thank you. And I will mention, sadly, that that's all the time we've allotted for questions today. And again, if you asked a question we didn't get a chance to answer it, we will follow up with you via email. For now, on behalf of myself and Donna, NeedyMeds, and the American Liver Foundation, thanks so much for taking the time to join us for today's special topic webinar, and we do hope to see you at future presentations. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.